Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where today's video is going to be on the New York Times hard Sudoku and how to solve it. Now these puzzles you may think, oh, I've never managed to do a hard Sudoku and it's going to be quite beyond me. Well, I'm telling you this, with a little bit of technique you can definitely solve the New York Times hard Sudoku. I'm going to show you how to do it, I'm going to show you the techniques you need, and we'll certainly make our way through this puzzle, I hope, without any hiccups at all. I'm going to do this puzzle today because I did record a video last night, but it was a much longer video on a diabolical level Sudoku that involved some more complicated techniques. I'll probably post that one tomorrow, I think. Those of you who enjoy the channel, please do consider becoming patrons of ours on our Patreon page. I'll put the link in the description of the video. For a very modest sum you can support the channel, which takes Mark and I a lot of time to create these videos, and we'd appreciate any support that you feel able to give us. So without further ado, how do we do this? Well, normally with the New York Times hard Sudoku there are a lot of fairly simple numbers we can put in at the start, and this 8 and this 8 you can see interact on this block here. There's only one position an 8 can go, so let's put an 8 in there. And we can, what I'll do is I'll use a standard pencil mark notation. So what I'm looking for there is, if you look for example at this 8 here and this 8 here, you can see that where can we place an 8 in this 3x3 block? Only in one of two positions. Now if I manage to lock a number into two positions in a 3x3 block, I'll make these little pencil marks. You can do that in the New York Times app just by pressing the space bar, and that switches between sort of big numbers and little numbers. And putting this sort of pencil mark in is a very good way of recording important information during the solve. So again, if we look at this 2 for example, I can place little 2's into there, and that's immediately helpful because now look at this central 3x3. Where can we place a 2 in this central 3x3 area? Well, this 2 rules out these 2 squares. These pencil mark 2's rule out these 3 squares. And we have a 2 here and a 2 here as well. So in fact the 2 can only go in that position. So we should write that in. 6 is here. We have a 6 here and a 6 here and a 6 up here. So this square is the only square left in this 3x3 block that can take a 6. So let's put that in. And 7's. So we have a 7 here and a 7 here. So where can a 7 go in this 3x3 block? Well, only in this position. And here you see one of the advantages of this notation. The moment I place the 7 in this square, I can immediately write the 2 into this square. And that follows from the logic I'm using with these pencil marks, where I'm saying the 2 I know is locked into one of two positions. So the moment I put the 7 into one of those positions, it follows this is the only square left for a 2. And as solves get more complicated and you have to use ever more difficult logic, just writing these little things down during the solve becomes a real aid to solving efficiently. Now, what can we do with this 2? Well, this 2 here and this 2 here now have an effect on this square, look. So where can a 2 go? Now it can't go in either of these two positions because of this 2. And this 2 here rules out these two positions. So we know the 2's locked into row 1 in this 3x3 block. And now we have a 2 here. So where can a 2 go in this square? Well, actually only in one position now, and that's here. And now again, let's use the information we're garnering. So we have a 2 and a 2. So the 2's in this square are locked into one of these two squares. But we have a 2 here, look, so we know this is going to be the 2. Now the moment we place the 2 here, because of our earlier pencil mark, we can also place an 8. And I believe that's going to be quite helpful. So there's a few things I can see immediately resulting from this. The first is this 7 and this 7 now, and this 7, and where we can place a 7 in this 3x3 block. Well, I think there's only one position left, and that's there. Now whenever we get numbers we should always pencil mark as far as possible. So obeying my own rules, let's use this 8 and this 8 on this 3x3 block. You can see that's forcing the 8s into one of two positions here. And going a stage further, if we look at how 8s interact on this 3x3 block, you can see 8s are ruled out from these two squares by this 8, and this 8 here rules them out from these two squares. So the 8s are locked into one of those two squares in this 3x3 block. And 9s also have a similar pattern, don't they? These 9s are also removing the 9s from those squares too. So there's a 9 locked into the same square. So now we have a pair. We have an 8-9 pair. We know one of these squares will be an 8, one of them will be a 9. And although we don't know the order, this is very powerful because it means that we can put no other number into these two squares. So let's just have a look at the rest of this block now. We need to still place the number 2. Well, we have a 2 here and a 2 here. So now this square is the only square left that can take a 2, because we know that we can't place a 2 here. Just to prove that to yourselves, for those of you newer to this sort of notation, if I did place a 2 here, the implication is that I'd have to put an 8 and a 9 in this square. Now clearly that's not possible, so we can place the 2, and now you can see that unwinds the pencil marks we did earlier. There can no longer be a 2 in this square, so the 2 must be there. And in the New York Times app, when you get all of the instances of a number in the Sudoku, it changes the font, which can be a bit disconcerting, but when you know why this is the reason the font's changed, it becomes relatively helpful. Now in this 3x3 block, I'm going to pencil mark the 1 and the 3. You can see the 1 and the 3 are locked into these two squares, obviously, because there's only two numbers left to place. So we can make pencil marks there. We've got 1, 4 and 5 left to place in this 3x3 block, which means I can pencil mark 5s into those two squares. And I think that's all. There's no 4s and there's no 1s, so I can't go further than that. This one here though, it allows me to pencil mark 1s into those two squares. And sometimes here it would be worth noting that in column 3 you can see the missing numbers are the numbers 1 and 5. So I would recommend just making a mental note to yourself that this square here can only be a 1 or a 5, and this square here can be a 1 or a 5, because sometimes that can be important. In a New York Times medium level puzzle you would never ever need to remember that, but in a hard puzzle sometimes you might be required to keep track of sort of obvious pairs like these two squares. Right, now what else can I see? Well, this 4 has an effect on this 3x3 block and allows us to pencil mark 4s into those two squares. And what else can we see? You have to train your mind to forget 2s, because obviously we've got all the 2s, so try not to look at them again. That's just inefficient. 6s, 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 no good. 5s. Aha. Right. Okay. So now this is a little bit of practice that will help you here. But let's take a look at this block. And we know actually that this square here is quite restricted, because we know we're missing the numbers 1, 4, 5 and 9 from this block. But if we look here, we have the number 4, and if we look here, we have the number 9. So in fact, this square here, I'm going to notate it, although it's slightly against my pencil marks, can only be a 1 or a 5. Now, if you've been watching the video attentively, you'll remember that we said that this square had to be a 1, 5. So in fact, we have this sort of thing going on. We have the numbers 1 and 5 locked into two positions in row 1. So now, effectively, row 1 has 5 given numbers in it, because we have the numbers 1, 2, we don't have a 3 or a 4, we have a 5 in one of these two positions, we have a 6, we don't have 7 or 8, and we do have 9. So we're looking to place 3, 4, 7 and 8. Now, if you're looking closely at the grid here and scanning the columns, you'll see immediately where we need to go. Because if we look at column 9, we have 3, 7 and 8 already in this column. So what are the possibilities for this square? There is only one number left, and it's the number 4. 1's ruled out, 2's ruled out, 3's ruled out, 4 is possible, 5's ruled out, 6, 7, 8 and 9 all ruled out. So this square has to be a 4. We can remove our pencil mark from here, and you can see immediately now we have a 4 here and a 4 here. So the 4 is locked into one of these two positions in this 3x3 block, and there's a 4 over here. So we must place this 4, keep our pencil marks going, and can we go further than that? I think the next thing I would do when I have this arrangement is I'd be looking at these 3 squares, because we now have forced these 3 squares. We know exactly what they are. We don't know the order of them, but we know that they are the number 3, 7 and 8 in some combination. So we could either pencil mark it. In fact, let's pencil mark it in just for the sake of good order, just to make it very clear what's going on. So that's a 3 or an 8 because there's a 7 here, and this can be a 3, 7 and 8. Now, if you're looking in the right place now, you should be trying to restrict these open 4 squares. Is there anything we can tell now about these open squares? And the important number is probably this 5, isn't it? Because now, where can we place a 5 in this 3x3 block? Well, only in these two positions. Now, does that give us more information? It does a couple of things. Firstly, now in this 3x3 block, the 5s are locked into one of these two squares, because we can't have a 5 here anymore. Now again, we can use the pencil marks, scanning down the grid. Now 5s are locked into one of these two positions in this 3x3 block. Now, is there anything else we can see here? 4, 5, 6 and 9. Well, no, I can't see anything else there just at the moment, so we're going to have to go elsewhere. 1, 4, 5 and 6 into this squares. No. One, 5. These two squares now. We have a 3 here and a 3 here, so we can pencil, oops, no, not that. Pencil mark 3s into those two positions. I keep coming back here because I think that there must be something more I can do with this. It feels like this is the place that the puzzle's going to crack. You can see that I can remove the 8 from that square. And we can pencil mark 9s into one of these two positions over here because of this 9 and how it interacts on this block. In fact, we may as well complete the pencil marks. Because of this 1, the 1s are locked here. So we now have a series of pairs in this 3x3 block. And then we can continue our pencil mark thing by using the 6 here. So we have a 6 here and a 6 here, look. So we know that the 6 is locked into one of these two positions here. So let's put that in. And what do we need to place still in column 9? We need the numbers 1, 5, 6 and 9. And we have this, oops, we have a 6 in one of these two positions. So here, let's look at this square now. What can this square be? We need to place 1, 5, 6 and 9. Well, we have a 1 in one of these two positions. We have a 6 in one of these two positions, and we have a 9 here. So this square has only one possibility left, and that's 5. This square must be a 5. Let's put that in. And that's lovely now, because let's have a look at the effect this has on this 3x3 block. Now there must be a 5 in one of these two positions, and we have a 5 here, so that resolves this. This has to be the 5. Immediately unwind the pencil marks by placing the 3. Why is that 3 change colour? Does that mean I've made a mistake? I don't know. I thought it only changed colour when I actually got all the numbers, which I don't think I have with the 3's, but anyway. This 5 here, and this 5 here, and the way they interact on this block with this 5 mean this is a 5. Let's put that in, remove the earlier pencil mark, and now finally, you remember we knew this was a 1-5 because of this 1-5 pair in column 3. Well, this must be the 5 now. It's the only place a 5 can go in this top box. That means this is a 1, which means this square here must be a 1. And immediately now we get the 1 here. This can no longer contain a 1, so we know that's a 9. This must be a 5. Let's remove the 5 from there. You can see now this square can only be a 1 because column 8 is full of all the numbers except the number 1. Pencil mark our 1's in. Let's check what we need down here. We need the numbers 1, 6 and 9. You can see we can therefore pencil mark 9's down here and pencil mark 1's there. So now the 1 and the 6 are locked into these two squares. So the 9 can't be in this square. If the 9 was in this square, both the 1 and the 6 would have to be in this square, which is clearly impossible. So we can remove the 9 here. The 9 has got to be at the bottom. Let's go over here and our 9-8 pair. This can't be a 9 therefore. So this is a 9, this is an 8. Again, using our pencil marks on this block, this 8 here stops this being an 8. So we remove this 8, this is the only position left for an 8. And I don't have to think about that. That follows from earlier logic that I recorded, so I don't have to revisit it. If I trust my pencil marks, I simply write the 8 in and move on. Let's look at this top block now. This can only be a 3, it can't be anything else. This now has to be a 7, and therefore this is an 8. And the 8's change colour. This 3 not changing, or changing font is absolutely bizarre. Anyway, now 7 here and the 7 here. So the 7 is in one of these two positions in this 3x3 block. Well, because of this 7, it can't be here, so it must be in this position. And as soon as we write it in, what are we going to do? We're going to be able to write in a 4 as well. Unwind the pencil marks from here. So this has got to be the 7. The 7's changed colour, that's all good. Now the only place a 6 can go now in row 4 is in this square. So let's put that in. Therefore this, what's that going to have to be? A 9, I think. Oops, 9. That 9's changed colour. That's probably a good sign. I still haven't put the 9 into this square, so let's put a 9 in there. That's the only place a 9 can go in this 3x3 block. 9 and a 9 here. So where can a 9 go in this 3x3 block now? Well, only in this square because of the 9 there. These two squares here must be 3 and 4 in some order. Let's pencil mark it. Therefore this square must be a 1. The moment I write the 1 in, that impacts on this 1-3 pair. This must be a 1. This must be a 3. The moment this 3's in, that must be the 3. This must be the 4. And now this must be a 4 to complete the column and the box. So let's write that in. And you can see the puzzle is solved now. There's nothing clever we need to do. It's simply a matter of filling in the open squares. We need to put a 5 in here to complete row 5. Unwind the pencil marks from there. The 5's changed font, which is a good sign. And we've got 4 and 6 to place in these two squares. Well, we have a 4 here. So that's a 4. That's a 6. The only place for a 4 in this 3x3 block now is here. Oh, they changed colour too, so that's all looking very promising. And now if we scan along row 8 here, we can see we need to place the numbers 1 and 6. So you can, if you do it in your head, you'll know that this is a 1 or a 6. Scan up the column, there's a 1 there. So in fact, this is going to have to be a 6. And therefore we unwind these pencil marks too over on this side. Now this must be a 1, this must be a 1. And you'll find that you can get very, very quick at solving when you use this method, especially on puzzles of this difficulty. This must be a 6 by font. But I just wanted to show you there's nothing difficult about a New York Times Sudoku. You just have to be diligent, keep track of your numbers, have good technique, and anyone can do it. So good luck to you. Let us know how you get on. Please subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.